Welcome back to the Drive Collective YouTube channel and another episode of Talking Cars. So we were thinking, lightweight sports cars are really all of the range with the new 992.2 GT3. But for us, we're thinking about some lightweight sports cars in the club, and we came across two amazing cars, the Lamborghini Gallardo Superleggera and the Aston Martin V12 Vantage. So you may be asking, why are we comparing these to a GT3? But much like the GT3, these two take the driving experience to a whole new level, but add in that special element of passion, as well as being true enthusiast cars. Let's go and have a look at them.
So, it's 2010, and you've got a bit of money, and you're looking for a supercar, you like driving, and you want something that's good, and you've ruled out a GT3, and you've ruled out a 430 or a 458, because they're a bit too ubiquitous. You don't know what the neighbour's going to think. You're looking at these. What do you think? What are you going to go for?
I absolutely love these two cars. The fact that Neil and Vijay let us borrow these two to talk about them, there's something about them that's just raw emotion. It's unfathomable. I've had the opportunity to drive both.
Yeah.
I unfortunately had to take this through traffic. But there was,
That's what a Lamborghini's for, though. Yeah. In my opinion.
I don't understand how people did it around West London, because, every so often, put it into neutral. You cannot drive it in first gear, slow speeds. You have to just put it into neutral. You were sitting in the car with me. I had to wait for traffic to go. Front lift up, front lift down. Then I had to, go for it. I couldn't let it just sit there and bite on the clutch.
Yeah. It's like having an EV, because you get halfway through your journey, you've got to stop off for a new clutch.
But, I've had the privilege of driving a V12 Aston Martin with a manual gearbox, the DBS. Granted, maybe not a V12 Vantage for a huge amount of time.
It's a shortened version of this, though.
I mean, this is an amazing car, massively undervalued as well. At the moment, they're sitting at a price point of about 50,000, 60,000
I know, it's nuts, isn't it?
It's just insane. V12, Aston Martin, manual gearbox.
I mean, look at it. Like, literally just look at it.
It's stunning. It's stunning. And the thing is, I love the subtleties of it. So, with the carbon fiber ornaments on the hood, is the hood actually carbon fiber?
The hood's aluminium, but the vents are carbon fiber.
Right, okay. But it's just like carbon. Little parts of it. So for everyone else, they probably wouldn't be able to say the difference between a 4.3 or even a 4.7 and this, right? Yeah. But for us, this is such a special car.
Very classy.
Yeah.
Ode to James Bond in some circumstances, but maybe for the older person. The Lambo is probably as in your face to annoy your neighbours. So that's probably the perfect car.
But you were saying some interesting things, because for you, the Lamborghini doesn't appeal to you at all.
Well, so look, I like Lamborghinis, and I have not driven a Gallardo, so I'm not going to pass judgment on it. But just from a branding point of view or positioning point of view, my mind doesn't go to Lamborghini when I think of a driver's car. I think of a Lamborghini as a purely emotional proposition, and you buy it because of the way it looks, because of the way it sounds, because the way it makes you feel, and they probably are quite good to drive. Again, I don't know if they are or not, but when I sit in that, it doesn't. When you sit in a 911, everything feels exactly right, and when I sit in a 911, I just want to go for a drive. Whereas when I sit in that, it's such a radical design. The windscreen's super far away from you, the driver position's a little bit odd, the whole car just feels like it's designed to not look like a car, feel like a car.
Something about that makes it so special.
Oh, for sure, I'd imagine. I can only imagine,
Yeah, and do you know what's really funny? So I knew nothing about Lamborghini Gallardos and the Superleggera, so I hadn't even seen it until our trip to Spain. And then I sat in it with Vijay, he took me for a drive, and I was admiring everything about the car.
Yeah.
Carbon everywhere inside. It's very CSL-esque, and luckily we had a 16M Ferrari next to it as well.
I love how CSL doesn't even need to feature in our videos, but we still have to talk about it.
It's the benchmark.
It's the lightweight CSL is the benchmark of all cars.
The CSL is the ultimate lightweight, and we love those. But having that next to the Ferrari, I suddenly understood the significance of this car, and then the numbers. It's a very, very rare car. Yeah, it's and all of that suddenly. I haven't driven one extensively either, and I still have that view about Lambos. Like, there's just sort of an image about Lamborghinis, but there's something about this and seeing it on the road and hearing it.
It sounds insane.
It sounds absolutely insane.
So the thing is that the normal Gallardo, just like the normal Aston 4.3 and 4.7, have no appeal to me. And that's maybe really cocky, and I do apologise about that.
No, but it's about the special edition versions of these cars
because
that
I think
suddenly
they're
appeal.
Extrapolating the most that you can out of these two vehicles. Like, this is a Gen 2, okay? So they had the Gen 1, which was a 5 litre, which is arguably even more special.
Oh, this is the uneven firing, or the odd firing engine.
So I think it was derived by Cosworth. It's a 5 litre, it's an even firing engine.
Yeah.
And it sounds sublime.
incredible.
Sounds like a Formula One car.
Yeah.
Especially with a special Inconel box. This is an Audi derived 5.2 engine, similar engine to the R8 V10. And I think they had a different bore for the RS6 and what have you. But this is just the absolute best of what the Gallardo and what the Lamborghini, Formula was.
Special about these is V10, V12. It's that initial sound.
And also the inherent architecture of the car, right? Like this is just this feels special before you even drive
and
it.
also,
thanks.
Thank you.
It's a V12.
No way.
Yeah.
If you're talking about like a GT3 and a 430, we're talking Scuddy probably 430.
Yeah, it's got to be a Scud, I think.
Because these two, they came out. This came out in 2007. The 4.7, and then you've got the updated V12 that came out a bit later. Then you have the 5.2 that comes out in 2010, right? So it's got a 430 Scuddy. For me, it has to be the Superleggera because those. If you were to say like a GT3 or like a 430, you're thinking like a proper dedicated true driver's car. And now I love this, and I've spent a lot of time in Europe behind a V12 Aston Martin with the manual gearbox, and there's something quite cosseting about that vehicle, and I think they're grossly underappreciated as well. However, for me, the Superleggera, it is absolutely everything you want it to be, because you don't have maybe that nth degree of that ability to turn in and have that dynamic feedback. But the pantomime and the drama about driving one of these, it's a mid-engine supercar, and it is a supercar, right? And I mean, this has obviously got a Brooklyn exhaust, so it sounds like the bee's knees. And I unfortunately woke up my entire street to get the car today. At 5 o'clock in the morning, it started up the entire street. It woke up my 7-month-old baby as well, and my wife was not very happy about it. But, I was still smiling when I was driving it. And you could see that everyone else on the road was enjoying seeing this out there.
Well, was everyone else giving these like lovely hand gestures?
I mean,
exactly.
Some of them had profanity. But the thing is that for me, it's always got to be, if you're going to go to that, that GT3 rival, then it has to be
Well, the thing is, you did say you don't want to annoy your neighbours. If we can annoy our neighbours, it would have to be this. Because as you say, it is theatre.
Yeah.
But I think it's a very difficult car to compare to a GT3 and the Ferraris of that era.
Yeah.
They're all very different cars. So
I mean, they are almost a bit like chalk and cheese, though. Really.
Well, these are the emotional purchases, right? This is heart,
and this is a bit more practical in some respects as well.
Yeah. They're definitely more practical. Well, that's definitely not.
This is not
that
at all.
definitely is.
This is probably one of the only V12 hatchbacks out there. I mean, the FF and not really many others.
V12. It's probably the only V12 hatchback with a manual gearbox.
True.
That's it.
Very true.
I love the V12 Vantage, and for me, Aston Martins have always had a soft spot in my whole thinking of cars.
Yeah.
But the V12 Vantage, out of all the range, so if we were to look at Aston Martins now, I don't think they do make a V12 Vantage. And the new Vantage, from what I was watching...
Actually, I don't think they do one anymore, but they did. They did until very, very recently.
Yes, they did. I think they did do them, but they haven't continued it for the new iteration.
For the brand new model, they've stopped. But
I mean, I was watching the Chris Harris video of him sliding around a V8 Vantage. Was it Chris Harris or Jethro Bovington?
Jethro Bovington.
Yeah, one of them.
Yeah,
and
recently.
showing how amazing that car is. But for me, still, it has to be this.
Yeah.
Or do you remember DBS, the James Bond from Casino Royale car?
Yeah.
They just really hit it on the head, and this feels very special. This is in your face special. It's throwing it out there. I'm a lightweight supercar. Like you said, this is a gentleman's driver, and you do feel utterly special. We were talking earlier. You were saying that the way this cabin is set up, it doesn't feel right to you, right?
Well, it's not that it doesn't feel right. I think you get into a 911 or a Ferrari, and it immediately shows stuff to you. It makes you want to go driving. Everything's exactly where you expect it to be. Everything's set up for good visibility. These, I think, a big appeal of a Lamborghini, especially of this era, is that it feels like nothing else. It feels radically different. I think the design almost taps more into aeronautical stuff or a fighter jet or a spaceship. And you've got that windscreen that's really far ahead of you, huge dashboard, seating position's a little bit weird, the visibility's a little bit off, takes some getting used to.
Have you sat and done the foot pedals as well?
I've not done the pedals in that, but...
Completely off centre.
Yeah.
And
so
I've got fat feet.
It takes a lot of getting used to, right? They're not a car that makes you immediately want to go out, grab out the scuff and go driving. But that's part of the appeal, is that you can drive this at any speed and it feels super
So
special.
really what we're saying is that they're not the driver's cars that the Porsches and the Ferraris are, but they have something else about them.
It's intimidating. It's a really
That's the word,
intimidating car.
yeah.
Putting a car into reverse and doing a 3-point turn, right?
Yeah.
You have to think about it when you're doing
But it's
this.
a theatre of a car that you drive occasionally, so it's all part of
But the whole point is
experience.
that those are lightweight, the GT3 Scuddies, they're all lightweight
Yeah.
cars and they bring something
But they
different.
all have their foibles, don't they?
Well, so people argue the GT3, it has no foibles, right? They say it's the perfect car. You don't need anything more than a GT3 to go fast and touring. Yeah?
Oh, but all of these cars have something that, like the little annoyances of not being able to do a 3-point turn are similar to ground clearance on GT3s. You know, there's always something.
I think the GT3's biggest issue at this price point is that you're sitting in a 911. And you're
That's
not sitting
true.
in a supercar, but you're paying supercar money. Whereas this, in comparison to all of its rivals, it's the only one offering a V12. I think it's the only one, if you discount 458, I don't know if you could get a manual gearbox in Gen 2, could you?
You could get a manual gearbox in a Gen 2.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well,
But
So they
these
made
are
it-
extremely rare to find one. And on one of our trips, we actually found on how many left. This was the rarest car on our trip. I think there were 5 or something registered or
Registered
something
on-
very
Wow.
silly.
in the UK.
Yeah.
Something ridiculous. Like we were gobsmacked because we
Yeah.
had a 16M with
Yeah.
us on the trip.
Yeah, and the 16M was more, there were more 16Ms on the road than these.
Yeah.
But what's crazy is that the price point
Yeah.
still don't reflect how special these cars are.
Yeah.
I mean, you can pick these up for 120 to 150,000 pounds for a really, really
Yeah.
nice version. You also have, did you know, a convertible version of this car?
Oh, Superleggera?
Yeah.
Oh, we won't even
it's
talk
called-
about that,
so
though,
it's
you
called
know.
a Superleggera, it's called a Gallardo LP574 Performante. It was actually the first Performante. You have a convertible version of this, and that's even cooler in my
Yeah.
eyes, because that's a V12 Vantage, like squat car, like
Yeah.
proper, like, for me, you know, you were saying grab it by the scruff of your neck and drive it. You can't with that because it scared the living hell out of you. It went forward drive and what have you.
Yeah.
This, it's begging you to do so.
Yeah.
It's begging you to go faster and faster and push
Yeah.
it that much harder. It will snap and hit you if you take the piss with it.
Yeah.
But it is just such an amazing car to drive.
Yeah.
So actually, you know, when you're chasing that whole GT3 lap time and
Yeah.
you're like, actually, you know what, forget it. I'm sick and tired of doing the ring 500 billion
Yeah, yeah.
times.
You never
Yeah.
take that on the ring. But the thing is, one decision making point when you're buying a car is price point. This is sitting at what, 60, 70k, something
I
like
mean,
that.
a high
This is
mileage.
over 100. Right?
Yeah.
So
A high mileage one of these, you could potentially get for about 45,
Wow.
50k.
Yeah. And it's the only one offering this very traditional format of car, which is, like I said, big V12, but
Yeah.
front engine, rear wheel drive, got that link to the cars that we grew up on.
You know, this is the other thing I love about this car, the Dove doors.
Yeah.
the doors.
So the doors open up a certain way, whilst, you know, Lamborghini, one would think you would want the doors to go up.
Oh, have they not got the...
No, but actually, that's the best feature of this Lambo, not
No, 'cause you hit your
I
head.
always imagined
not
it
having
for scissor
gull wing doors.
No,
Ah.
no, but you hit your head. Every time you jump into it, you hit your head because the roof line's too low. So every time I jump into it, I either stress my hip.
Why don't you sit in the car? You don't have to
You
jump into
try and hit. You're shorter than I am.
Okay.
But so that's why you're probably going to get into it very easy. But Gullab's a tall guy. See, he hit his head. He hit his head.
I actually did
He
hit my
hit his
head.
head. You try and jump
And
into
I
that car.
tried not to hit my head.
Try and jump into that car without hitting your
Probably
head.
the combination of the
pressure,
roof line and the
actually.
bucket.
But no, it's because the door doesn't open up wide enough. So you actually see, look, you can hit your head. Boom. You have to duck.
But I was thinking about it, to be fair. If you hadn't told me, I probably would have.
Yeah.
It is a very low roof.
Whilst with this, like if you were to, let me pose this question to you actually, because these cars aren't about lap times, right? They're about the emotion and passion side of things. On a Sunday morning, what's going to encourage you to get out and drive? Because that's what these cars.
This one.
Fine.
I
Okay.
think
Why would you say that?
On a Sunday morning, you've got nothing else. You've got nowhere to be. You're not
Yeah.
going to have to do that 3-point turn. You're not going to be driving into central London. You're going for a hoon. Whereas if it was going to central London, it would be this one.
I mean, you'd probably get let out a little bit more in central
You
London.
probably
than
would be,
that.
and it feels a much more comfortable place to be, stuck in traffic.
It's interesting because
And
for
the
a
noise.
Sunday morning hoon, I think you would get probably about the same equivalent level of passion. And what's crazy is that that's double the price of this. To get that level of like enjoyment and passion out of it, I think you'd have more drama and theatre, and there'll be other people witnessing you driving this car. And so that I think adds into it a little bit. And if you're interested in like buying a car for that purpose alone, which as much as I love cars, I'm not really driving them for the sake of getting the approval of other people. Not saying that that's a bad thing, but just saying that this gets nods and what have you. Whilst this, I think if you wanted to go out for a pure drive, just you and the car, you may get a little bit more out of this car.
Would you guys cross-shop these two cars? Or would you just be in one camp or the other? Because for me, I love Lamborghini. I think these two cars have completely different personas, completely different designs. They appeal to different look basically of a person, and I really struggle to imagine being able to want both, because for me, I like this, I appreciate this, but my heart goes straight to the Aston.
But why is that?
That's just how I want a car to look. I love that mix of traditional proportions, because I like cars, right? So I want a car to look like a car. I don't want a car to look like a spaceship. and you've got that. It's not a super long bonnet. No, but this is lovely. If I was driving down the street, my jaw would drop, right? But in terms of what I want growing up, you know, that's what I love. It looks like a car. It looks like one of the most beautiful traditional sports cars ever. It's front engine rear-wheel drive, which is what I know. And image-wise, I just really like it. It's I think it's what I want to step out of, you know.
That could be the thing that tips people which way they go, is the image.
If you were going to get a Lamborghini, you'd typically, and you'd go for image alone, you'd go for a yellow Lamborghini.
Hurricane or something.
Yeah. Based on a Hurricane.
I think a Lamborghini is a Lamborghini.
But a black,
you know, it's
a black Superleggera. It's pretty
but it's still.
But I think you mean to buy this. Like, not many people would buy this particular car because it's a special edition.
Not many people know about it.
No, they don't.
Okay, so a 5.0 version of the Gallardo, amazing car, amazing sounding vehicle, e-gear, would probably be the same price as this, 55, 60k, right? Would you, maybe it's somewhat unfair to compare these two because the price point is completely different and you can't really be in the same
But that's
camp,
entry level Lambo. That's somebody who's scraping together, wants to get a Lambo, and that's the only one they can get.
Would you get that or would you get this?
I get this, 100%. This is the special edition, like we said, it's the CSL of E46 M3s. That's the pinnacle of that model.
Yeah.
But then if you're going for quality, a car with great provenance, low mileage, you're going to go for this if that was your price point.
It's quite obvious what makes that car special, right? Mid-engined, low.
Special edition, carbon fibre, sound.
Yeah, but what
everything.
makes this car so special, do you guys think? One thing.
V12.
I think it's a hot rod. It's an absolute hot rod. I mean, look at the size of this car. And when you pop the bonnet and you see the V12 in there, it's insane. I mean, you can't even imagine. It's like, you know, when you walk in someone's flat and you think, how did you get that sofa in there?
Yeah.
It's a bit like that.
Yeah.
It's just nuts. When I think about the idea of one of these, I think about being up in Scotland on an empty Highland road, coming out of a hairpin and just having that little front engine rear drive moment where you just dance with a Raxel, just a little bit, and the V12 escapes away from you.
It's quite obvious what makes the Gallardo Superleggera so special. You know, mid-engine, Lamborghini, what you were saying, carbon fibre, it's essentially carbon fibre inside the whole thing. Whilst this has got really nice sport seats, you had the carbon fibre option. But if you had one thing that would make this car special, what would it be?
V12. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I mean, it's huge. Like, ignore the massive pennant, right? That is the physical engine. These are the cam covers. They're right up to the turrets. They're just, it's
I don't know if you remember, there was actually a Top Gear special to find the greatest road in the world. I think they took a GT3 997, it was Kermit Green, I think it was an RS. They took a Gen 1 Superleggera, and they took what was a predecessor to this. It was a N430 or M420.
No, it was the actual race car.
Oh,
so
right.
it was the actual Nürburgring car, but they are street legal.
Okay.
So the N430 is the road going version, which is very lovely. Henry Catchpole does an amazing video on it. But that one, it's not a very well-known thing, but basically they would sell you an N430 that was fully prepped to go racing in, and it was I guess race legal. It's not really a word, but you know, it had the cage and all that kind of stuff. It wasn't meant to be road car, but you can put number plates on it because it was just about compliant. So that's what James May was in.
Why do they? So
that was a V8 though.
Yeah, that was a V8, and then I think that was quite a nice comparison because that was actually where these two were compared to a GT3 actually.
Yeah.
Like, you know, in some guys, right?
Yeah.
And they were actually a brilliant competitor. They never put a Scuderia in there though. They could have had the option to do one. So do you remember we were talking about skunkwork BMW on our last video, and we're talking about just engineers just fueling the passion of just driving. I feel like this is almost a skunkworks Aston Martin.
Oh, for sure.
Because you're taking the engine from a DBS at the time, which was the big V12 engine. You had a DB9, but it's softer. This is, I think, a bit more highly strung than a normal DB9 engine. And you put it into the shortest platform. It's a proper skunkworks car.
Yeah.
It's got carbon ceramic brakes as well.
Yeah.
But for me, what is so special about this particular vehicle and why I thought we should bring it here today to compare it to the Superleggera is the manual gearbox paired with the V12 Vantage, V12 engine. You can tell the prices of DBSs at the moment, the manual DBSs, they command a huge price compared to the normal just Touchtronic DBSs, which look beautiful. But these are criminally undervalued at the moment.
Well, because they're quite popular. They actually sold pretty well.
They did sell really well. And what is so special about that is that you get to have that manual experience. And I think Jeremy Clarkson described it as a Power Ranger's foot, the way to describe the gear knob, because it just, like shifting gears in this, and the noise it makes when it does it, it's something so special.
That's the other thing that links both these cars, is that they're just full of really unique design. You sit in that interior, and I mean, well, I had to move this into position, and it took me about 5 minutes how to figure everything out. So you've got 3 pedals and steering wheel, fine, and a gear stick, but other than that, nothing's where you expect it to be. It's annoying at first, but you get used to it. But the point is, it feels like a really bespoke piece of engineering. It feels like Aston Martin, or it feels like the engineers at Aston Martin have never sat in another car. They've just been making Astons for years and years and years. And I was like, let's put that. Kind of like an air-cooled Porsche almost. And the other thing is, this is what you don't get when you sit in that. You sit in that, and the smell. The smell is incredible. The leather is amazing. It feels like you're sitting in a Birkin handbag. It is absolutely unreal.
A Birkin handbag.
And again, basically, I think both these cars, what they offer over a Porsche or Ferrari, is they feel so special, even when you're just sitting in traffic.
The other thing is the garage test. So I've been storing the Lambo for a bit, right? First thing I do, get home, want to see my son, want to see my wife. Open the garage door to see the CSL and that sit next to each other. And it just you can't wipe the smile off of your face.
So you say it's like the look back test where
like
the walk away, you have to look back.
And I think both of these have these in spades, right?
It's easy to like both of these. It's hard to want both because they're so different, such different personas. And I think this is more flamboyant, perhaps more expressive. This is more elegant, and I think if you're into traditional cars, I mean, you know, we all like BMWs, for instance. A BMW is like the traditional 3-box car. This isn't 3-box, but it's the ultimate expression of an old school traditional supercar. This is how supercar started out. Front engine, V12, 2 seats, a bit of luggage space at the back. That's what the original Ferrari 250 was.
Yeah, and you think about 275s, like, you know, the Lusos. But the thing is that the Miura came and blew that out of the water.
For sure. But this is the original formula. And this is the upstart. So it depends what you want.
No, because
but they're both amazing.
Exactly.
But it depends what you want.
Depends what your use case for the car is, I think.
Because
as well.
for me, when someone says supercar, the first supercar I would ever think of. Some people think 300. Yeah, I think Miura.
Fair enough.
Miura is the first supercar.
The other thing about an Aston is that you can spec them, as you see here, absolutely beautifully, and no other supercar manufacturer lets you do that. You can't buy you can buy a Porsche of that generation with chrome aluminium window trim, diamond cut wheels, and I'm sure some of our viewers will hate all of that, but I love it, especially because this car has genuine performance credentials. The proportion is amazing, so to have that detailing to soften it down and make it a bit more elegant.
Well, it's a very special
really
colour
lovely.
as well. It's a quantum silver. So this is the car from James Bond. So you have Casino Royale grey, and you had quantum silver. And this is the quantum silver car.
So on the new Astons, quantum silver is like there's Aston's version of PTS, and then there's Aston's second version of PTS, and quantum silver is on like the second tier. It's a really expensive colour. I
think the
it's absolutely gorgeous.
Capitalised on all these like little tweaks and what was quite cool about them, because that you couldn't really customise at all. It was, you get the car, you get the colour of the car, and that's really about it. Carbon ceramic brakes. So I remember Chris Harris, there's a video of him, I think it was an Autocar or Car Magazine video, where he's doing Bugatti Veyron, like car of the year kind of thing. And he had a low downforce Gallardo Superleggera in matte grey, and it just looked like the bee's knees. And like, I think it was an E-gear at the time, but they had the manual gearbox.
E-gear's still cool. I think E-gear's really cool.
I mean,
I'd love manual.
It's drama, right? So we were talking, a few friends and I were talking about Murcielago E-gears, and like the price of manual Murcielagos being insanely high. Is it that much? Like, okay, fine, that gated shifted is really iconic. But the E-gear is another experience in itself, right? You have to think when you're driving it. Like I said, you cannot stand in traffic. You have to knock it into neutral.
But also at full whack, when it slams the next gear
bang!
There's nothing
it's
that's
insane.
quicker than that, right?
It's just bonkers. There's so much drama, and that's what Lamborghini's about.
This was utterly bonkers. And then you can make it only more bonkers. Like with the colour, like this is probably least bonkers spec colour, because it's a black and it's like peppered with stone chips.
Which is very cool, by the way.
Yeah,
rate that.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah,
It's
never
super
respray
cool.
that front end. That is.
Well, I think the thing is that I think Vijay really wants to repaint the front of it, because one of our detailing friends, Nav, is just so upset that
I'd PPF over that.
Yeah, you'd have to. PPF over it once it's painted, hopefully.
It tells a story.
Exactly.
This car's actually been driven, right?
And actually, he was barreling it into corners in Spain because he knew that the front end's already painted.
First time he was driving it, he was petrified of driving it. By the end of the trip, he's hooning up and down mountains. He's got confidence in the car. car.
That's what it's for.
Well, because it's got the four-wheel drive system.
Yeah.
The e-gear is like, it smacks you in the back of the head, like we were saying. And actually the driving position, once you get used to it and you're a little bit more orientated with the controls and what have you, it's actually a lot easier to drive. Murcielago, I don't think is actually a difficult car to drive. I know friends who do own one, Amit and Durham, and Durham thinks that the Murcielago is a horrible car to drive, but that's because he's also comparing it to a GT4 RS. This, for example, is actually quite an easy car to get in and drive. And so I guess, you know, my question about which one would you take on a Sunday hoon?
I think this is more of a hooligan, and I think as you get older and more mature, you might decide that this is your car. No, I really think when I'm in my 50s, sorry Neil, or 60s, this would be the car that I'd go for, because I think I'd had my fun in these kind of cars. This would be the car. I'd be retired.
Yeah.
I'd be taking this everywhere, but I'd still be enjoying the fact that I've got a V12.
But if you were to take, so if we wrap this video up and were to think about it this way, yeah, a 911 and a 911 GT3,
yeah,
there is that characterful difference between the two vehicles, yeah. 4.7 a V8 Vantage versus V12 Vantage, massive difference. Gallardo and Superleggera, arguably, is there that much of a difference between the two? Because they're both eccentric vehicles, they're both out there cars. Yes, this has got all the elements to it, but it doesn't make it that much faster. It doesn't make it that much more dynamically better.
But it's more special, makes you probably feel more special when you get inside.
Absolutely.
From what I understand, most Lamborghini Gallardos and the Huracan that followed are set up from factory to be very conservative, a little bit understeery, because they know their clientele, they know that everyone buys a Lambo. If you got money, it's not necessarily just car. That's the magic of a Lamborghini, is that they have such a broad appeal, right? And you've got a mid-engine car with a massive, quite tall quad-cam V10 behind the driver's seat. It's an inherently tricky format. So you set them up very conservatively, safe understeer, and then there's a huge amount you can do with just geo, a bit of weight saving, and it might, for instance, feel like a complete different car. I don't know, I've not driven one, but in terms of image, that is clearly a track-orientated or pitched off as a track-oriented car that happens to be road legal, whereas this is the opposite. This is clearly a road car, but actually you probably could take some tracks. It's got carbon ceramics, it's got a fantastically sorted chassis, it's got more power than the chassis needs or can handle, which is brilliant. You know, and they do the same thing, but this is a brute in a suit, whereas this is kind of actually the really smart guy, but he's in casual clothes. You know, they're two different ways of getting to the same point.